today's video is on male and female point of view. This video is simply stereotypical male-female roles and how they present differently on page. So specifically dialogue and goal setting and thought processes and stuff like that. I know we've all read a book where, or at least I have, I don't know, maybe you haven't. I've read books where it was instantly clear that a man wrote it or that a woman wrote it. And I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a tendency for men to not really describe women very well or be able to speak for them very well. And there's a tendency for women to not be able to speak for men very well. That's actually something that's talked about with a lot of big name authors. So today I want to talk about why. So I studied sign language interpreting, and as part of my training, we had to learn how to speak for both men and women, and we had to learn to speak for all different age groups. So when you're interpreting, you don't say, this person said this thing. That's not how that works. You have to actually speak as if you are that person. And so you have to learn how to communicate the way that that person communicates and express the sentiment exactly the way that they expressed it, but it packaged in a new language. It's far more nuanced than my mom just said she wants or whatever. Again, these are generalities, so just keep that in mind. But men have a general mentality for what's called report communicating, and women have a general tendency towards rapport building communication style. So with reporting, that's exactly what it sounds like. It's taking this information and giving it to you. I'm just telling you what happened. It's very direct. It's far more succinct. It says the exact same thing, but uses fewer words. Women have a tendency towards what's called polite language, or it's also called flowery language. The sentences are longer. They use a lot more adjectives. And they do something called hedging. A report way of communicating would be, this is the best book that's come out this year. A rapport building communication style or a polite language communication style would be, I think the best book that's come out this year, or my favorite book that's come out this year, or according to me, or in my experience, or anything that sort of softens what you're about to say next. Whereas this report giving information is very, very direct. It's to the point. It's again succinct, right? So women are almost expected to use polite language, and they're looked down on when they don't. And you can love me or hate me for saying that, but there are statistics and there are studies to back this up. So this is a real thing that's studied and is talked about in various professions. I'm just bringing you this information, so use it how you will. But women tend to be criticized when they don't use rapport building language. They're called dirty names, to be quite frank. They're seen as aggressive or not playing nice with the other kids, things like that. Whereas a man can use that language and he's seen as assertive and a go-getter and leadership material. So we see more report building language again with men, but also in certain types of careers. So we see it in CEOs, we see it in military, things like that. We see more flowery or polite language in careers like creatives, anyone where they really have to interact with other people or other people's feelings matter. So a counselor would use more of a rapport building style of communication. This is also influenced by culture, family culture, career culture, or national culture. However, in a country that has a tendency to be more polite in general, you would still see this present, where while they're both more polite, the men gear more towards a rapport building style of communication and the women gear more towards a rapport building style of communication. So when you have a culture that is more direct, you're still going to have more of a rapport building with the women and more of a reporting with the men. So it's kind of an interesting phenomenon that is worldwide and can really influence the way that you write your characters. So a lot of authors are saying, well, just make up a character, just make them up and decide who they are and what their goals are, and then decide their gender later. Don't do that, because the way that we make our goals is influenced by our gender. And you may hate this too, but it's also true. And it's part of how we grow up in society. And I'm going to sound real political here for a sec, which is unintentional, but women are taught to be polite, and they're told to sit and to listen and to speak when spoken to. It's just a common thing that women grow up with. We're hardwired to be more nurturing, and then we're taught to be more polite and to not assert ourselves. And you can love that or hate that. It is true. And then with men, they're taught more to go for the careers, and they're wired more towards really wanting to go far in careers. If you notice, even in the career fields where it's female dominated, you still have males as the leaders of those specific fields. So if you look at the creative field, for example, creative writing, you're going to see more men that have YouTube channels that are academic in nature versus the vlogging, which is going to be more women. It just is. They want to talk, they want a rapport build. Men want to report. It's a perfect example of exactly what I'm talking about. And then it also influences the way that we set up our goals, the way that we approach our goals, because men tend to cut out all the fluff and they tend to go straight forward for whatever it is, and they tend to go almost more aggressively towards what their goals are, and women tend to sort of go at it politely, take breaks, things like that. So love it, hate it, let me know in the comments below. But it is true. And if I can find the psychological studies that we used to research, I will let you know. But it's difficult for men when they get a female interpreter, because females, again, use very long, flowery language, and they have a different voice. And so men are actually treated differently, especially if the interpreter is interpreting a phone call and it's some big burly man and the voice is this little tiny girly voice. I have heard stories of men will just hang up until they get a male interpreter, which is not as common in fields like interpreting. It's pretty female dominated. And so they want to be presented in a specific way. And when your career is on the line, it's really important that you are presented in a specific kind of way. So yeah, this is going to influence your writing. I hope you found value in this, because this is something that's done wrong quite frequently in the writing community. Men have shorter sentences. Women have lots of friendship building long sentences with lots of adjectives. It just is how it is. So hope you like this. Click like, click subscribe, because I'm going to do the best that I can to help you go from being a hobby writer to publishing your next bestseller. Welcome to my channel.